If you're on the fence about whether to play a ranger or not, one of the big things that might help you make up your mind is what kind of spells they've got. And so you're in luck, because behind today's secret door, best ranger spells levels 1 through 5. So behind today's Secret Door, best ranger spells, levels 1 through 5. This is Secret Door, a channel devoted to in-depth discussion about Dungeons & Dragons, and my name is Matt Morich. Alright, I have started a Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the channel, your help would be greatly appreciated and much needed. And many thanks to Marcelo and Doug for your support. The link will be in the pinned comment and in the description. So I don't have a whole lot to say about the Ranger except this. Every time I look at the Ranger, and this is actually was true in 5th edition as well, I'm always kind of surprised. It's such an unpopular class that you'd think there must be really good merit for it, but the more I've ever looked at it, the more I've thought it looks pretty decent. Now, maybe that's the thing. Maybe it only just seems decent and not wow. And I'll grant you that there's not a lot about the Ranger when you're looking at the class features that makes you go, wow, until you generally start looking at them, and then you go, oh, wow. Once you start figuring this stuff out, and part of that is also hiding in plain sight, and that is the spells. And the spells on this list are really quite good. I'm only considering Player's Handbook spells, and I'm also going to be giving you the top 3 spells per level, plus at least 1 honorable mention. If there are more, then there may be like a level or 2 where there's 2 honorable mentions. That's actually a really good sign. But before we get to the level 1 list, I just want to mention Hunter's Mark. It's not going to appear on the level 1 list. That does not mean that I don't think it shouldn't be there. It absolutely should be there. I love Hunter's Mark and Hex. However, you don't have to pick it. It's actually now a class feature, which is fantastic. And that's the other point I want to make about that class feature. You're getting free castings of Hunter's Mark. That puts the Ranger in this weird situation as a half caster that they're actually far more on the edge of being a full caster. I'm not saying they are, but in terms of volume of spells, well, they're much closer than the Paladin because of those extra castings of Hunter's Mark. Those extra castings of Hunter's Mark may be all of the Hunter's Mark you need for that day, which frees up all of your spell slots to do with whatever you feel best about. And that's the other last point I want to make, is because you have this pocket sitting over here with Hunter's Mark, you can be a little bit more aggressive with your spells that you're going to use, because if you cast a spell that has concentration and therefore you're going to lose Hunter's Mark, well, you got free ones. And then if you burn through all your free ones and you still want Hunter's Mark, well, then go ahead and throw a slot at it. So the Ranger has good spells, and it has the ability to cast them, and it's not necessarily being held in direct conflict with, like, I don't want to burn this spell because then I'm going to lose concentration on Hunter's Mark. Who cares? You got free ones. So Hunter's Mark does not appear on the level 1 list, but if it didn't have that class feature, it would definitely be in the top 3, for sure. Now, just as a reminder of how Rangers deal with spells prepared, your preparation list can change by 1 spell after you finish a long rest. So definitely not as flexible as a Divine Caster, where they can just, grab anything they want from spells that they can actually cast, but it still provides a definite flexibility to it. So using this list that I'm going to give you as a kind of like what your general preparation guide should be for a Ranger is going to be something I hope that you'll find useful to you. I'm going to give you 2 honorable mentions. One because it's so important, and one because it could theoretically be important. So the first one is Hail of Thorns. So Hail of Thorns is essentially a smite for ranged weapons with a little bit of area of effect thrown in there for good measure, like a 5-foot area of effect. It functions after you hit somebody with a ranged weapon, and it's a bonus action. So it could be a really nice little spell if you're using ranged weapons. I think a lot of rangers are going into melee, so I don't value it quite as high, but it is a way to just, push damage at the enemy, and that's always great. And the other honorable mention, first of all, it's a ritual. That's always useful, but it's detect magic. Now, the only reason I don't push this higher on the list, because detect magic is an incredibly important spell in D&D. It's that you're a martial character, and chances are you've got 2 other full casters maybe in the party. It depends on your party size, of course. But you've got at least 1 other full caster in your party, most likely, and that caster probably already has detect magic. But if you're in a situation where somebody doesn't have it and you can have it, you should grab it. And it's a ritual, so it's not going to, bother you at all. So definitely detect magic. Very, very important spell. So at number 3 here on level 1, I have Cure Wounds. I don't think I really need to talk about how valuable Cure Wounds can be. Now, you may think that you don't need it, but when players go down, when characters when characters go down, it's important to be able to pick them back up, and so that's why Cure Wounds is on the list. It isn't necessary, but I would say I would strongly urge you to take a good look at it. And it's because of that, because of how critical it can be, that there's some other really nice spells that don't make this list here at level 1. These spells all edged them out. And Cure Wounds, even though it may seem redundant to the Ranger, is actually something that you really do need to take a good look at. So at number 3, Cure Wounds. At number 2, we have Entangle. Now, Entangle is essentially, it isn't as good as Web, but it's awfully close. And Web is a really, really good spell. So right out of the gate, you're getting a really nice control option that you're going to be able to use throughout your entire career. Entangle is actually one of those spells. Its value is going to strangely just keep going up, which is odd. You would think it would go down. It'd be very valuable at first level and lower levels, and then it would go down. But what I mean by that is that if you are in a situation where you need control at later levels and you've already burned through all your slots, and you've got a level 1 spell slot sitting there, that level 1 spell slot, generally speaking, doesn't do anything in terms of changing around a combat for most classes. But Entangle can. I mean, I'm not saying it will, but it can. And so its value holds. I think it actually goes up a little bit as you go through your career. So Entangle, great spell, at number 2. Now, if Entangle is at number 2, and I love it so much, what could be at number 1? Must be pretty good. And it is. And you know what it is. It's Goodberry. Goodberry is such an amazing spell. So I did not come up with this trick that I'm going to mention, and you've heard me mention it on the channel before, but if you're new to the channel, here we go. So before you take a long rest, one of the things that you can do, Rangers and Druids, anybody with Goodberry can do this, is they can burn all their slots before they're taking that long rest on Goodberry. Then you take your long rest, you wake up, you've got all your spell slots back, and you've got these Goodberries that are going to last for 24 hours, and basically until you set down for a long rest the next day. So this allows the Ranger to harness all of their spellcasting ability and push it forward into the next day as a resource. And that is an incredibly powerful thing in Dungeons and Dragons. The Druid can do that as well. But I mean, that ability to take today's spellcasting and bring it into tomorrow doesn't happen very often. So Goodberry is an invaluable spell. Now, I just want to address one quick point on Goodberry. When I've talked about it, I get all people who are either dungeon masters or who are quoting a dungeon master that make the absurd idea that because that one Goodberry can provide a day's worth of nutrition, that it's essentially like eating a day's worth of food in that one Goodberry. And so therefore they say that, well, if you eat 5 Goodberries, then you ate 5 days worth of food. You get the nutritional value out of 5 days of food. Has anybody not ever taken supplements before? And at level 2, we also have 2 more honorable mentions to begin with. The first is Locate Object. This is actually a really rangery spell if you stop to think about it. They're good at hunting and finding and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Locate object is really fits right into the theme of how a ranger operates. And locate object can be an incredibly useful spell in D&D. Probably not one, though, that you're going to always have in your preparation list. So it is a really nice one to put here in the honorable mention for one where you, if you know you're going out on an adventuring day where finding a certain thing is important, then you could obviously pre-prepare for locate object. The other honorable mention could kind of toggle between the number 3 spot and here. And these, I don't necessarily mean that the honorable mentions are in any kind of order, but this one could have gone into the number 3 spot, or it could have been an honorable mention. So I'm putting it here, and that's Summon Beast. Now, in that lower level rung, having Summon Beast is a really nice get. Now, you're a level 5 character. That's important to remember here. You're a level 5 character before you can cast this spell. So it's also beginning to just kind of fade a little bit on the end. Druids, this is a nice spell to get at level 3. At level 5, this is faded a little bit, but it can still be useful. It's having a summons that's going to be out there taking damage, doing damage, occupying the enemy, whatever. Very, very, very useful. So here at the last honorable mention is Summon Beast. At number 3, we have Magic Weapon. Magic Weapon doesn't have concentration, which is a thing that is really great about it. Now, the nice thing about Magic Weapon for you is that, you're getting it here at 5th level. You probably already have your own Magic Weapon, but you might not. Or maybe you're something like a dual wielder and you have one magic weapon, but the other one is not. And so in that case, maybe casting a spell on the off weapon could be useful, or it could be useful to just cast it for a character that in the party that doesn't have a magic weapon yet. So useful spell, can contribute in combat, very nice spell to have. At number 2, we have Aid. Normally, when Aid is available, it's almost always at the number 1 spot. And I'm going to tell you that while it could be number 1, what sits at number 1 can simply just do more in a combat. Aid can absolutely save. It could take a TPK and turn it around just by picking up 3 down party members. You could do that with Aid. You could be using it to raise those hit point maximums before that, but you could also be using it as a multiple card pickup if multiple characters were to get dropped. So a very flexible, very powerful spell, Aid. I'm not underselling it here. It could be easily at number 1. But in the end, I felt that here at number 1, which is, of course, Spike Growth. Now, the only reason I put Spike Growth here is because it can have such a dramatic impact on the battlefield. And you had Entangle. Now here at 5th level, you've got a spell that can do the same thing. Now, it's definitely going to be here at number 1 if you're playing with any characters that have routine push effects. So if you have a Warlock in the party with Repelling Blast, or a Monk even has a lot of different push effects. Lots of characters in the game now have push effects. So the value of Spike Growth has gone up from where it was before. Because anytime you're pushing somebody through that Spike Growth, they're taking extra damage. So it has some kind of control, and it has the possibility of being a high yield damage dealer. The problem for it is, of course, that it's concentration. But again, I don't worry too much about that now with the Ranger because you've got those free castings of Hunter's Mark. So it doesn't really matter if you have to drop concentration on that. If Spike Growth is going to turn the battle around for you right away, then cast Spike Growth. And Spike Growth can turn the battle around. All right, so at level 3 is stuffed with good spells. There are spells sitting here in the honorable mention, or again, we're going to have 2, that many of you could make the argument should be in those top 3, and I would not gainsay you. They're all really, really good. I'm trying to order them in the way that I think they just edge each other out. These are 5 great spells. So we're going to say Conjure Barrage as the first honorable mention. Conjure Barrage is a really nice area of effect spell. Should it be in those top 3? Maybe. Yeah, I mean, it really just depends. When you see what's in the top 3, I think you'll understand why I had to kind of put it here. But it's a great spell. And you don't have area of effect damage other than something like Spike Growth. You're a level 9 character by the time you're getting these spells. So it's important to note that as well. The level of play you're playing at So Conjure Barrage, really, really nice spell. It's also it's a ranger spell, so it's got that going for it. So there's a unique factor to it. Very, very powerful spell. Very powerful as an AoE. It's just that the other spells are also really, really, really good. The next honorable mention here at level 3 is Dispel Magic. Now, Dispel Magic, this also kind of screams very rangery to me as well, depending on what kind of ranger you're playing, but the ability to solve problems, to find stuff, solve problems, and be a good fighter or a stealthy character, whatever. The ranger's kind of like that, sort of like a super rogue or a martial rogue, maybe is the way to look at it. But from the standpoint of the casting that you're able to get as a ranger, it really is something rather special. Dispel Magic is an incredibly versatile, useful spell, and it kills me to not put it in the top 3. But at number 3, I have Revivify. That's a hard one to beat. It is my mantra that if Revivify is on your list, you have to take it. And the reason why you have to take it is if it were to come to pass that a character who went down in combat and is technically dead cannot be saved because you couldn't be bothered to take up a preparation for a Revivify, and that's the sole reason, then you're going to feel like a horrible human being, because that, if that character ends up dying, and depending on how your campaign deals with character death, that could be a big deal or not a big deal. But I think it's important to have Revivify if it's available to you. But Revivify could easily be at the number 1 position. It's that important. And my number 2 could be at the number 1 position. It's that important. And at number 2, we have a showstopper of a spell most of the time. You get Plant Growth as a ranger. Now, I always thought this spell was simply okay because I was under the misconception that it was a concentration spell. It isn't a concentration spell. Now, depending on how your DM deals with Plant Growth, this is either number 1, or if they are very harsh in how they deal with it, it could even drop below number 2, depending on how harsh your DM is about this. From my reading of the spell, any level of plants in the area will be sufficient to be able to make the spell work. Some people demand that every inch that's being covered be in green. The spell does not say that. But it just really depends on how your DM, rule is written, I'm quite convinced that I'm correct here, but how your DM is actually going to rule it is a whole thing altogether. And the thing is, I get it, because Plant Growth is insanely good and powerful. So putting some restrictions on it is important. But I want you just all to realize that plants are everywhere in the world. Everywhere. We get this idea, well, if there have to be plants, then it can only work, it can't work in a dungeon and it can't work in town. Well, what? What? Are you guys looking at laser line graphics from video games of going through dungeons and therefore there weren't any plants? That's what your concept of how dungeons work? Did no one ever see Raiders of the Lost Ark? That dungeon he's going through in the very beginning? There's plants everywhere. If you go into Elden Ring, or you go into Demon's Souls, or any of those great video games that are all heavily influenced by Dungeons and Dragons, you see plants everywhere. Just open your eyes and look when you're playing. If you play Skyrim, look at that. Anyway, I could go on and on and on about this, but I lived in Chicago for over 30 years. I'm quite confident that wherever you drop me, if I cast Plant Growth, it would go off. But that is dependent upon how your DM is going to interpret it. If it has to be plants, like you have to be on a football field, or you have to be in a park, or something like that for it to go off, well, then I guess. But that's not how the spell reads. So there's no way I could put it in number 1. It has number 1 power, for sure. But is it going to be dealt with that way by your DM based on all the overwhelming kind of response I was getting when I talked about Plant Growth in other videos? There's all these people out there, that, or at least very vocal people, that seem to think that you need to be in the middle of some people even said it only works in a jungle. The spell doesn't say that. It just doesn't say that kind of thing. Anyway, so Plant Growth, very, very powerful. And it just kind of depends on your DM. And at number 1, we have Conjure Animals. Now, Conjure Animals, it's just a fantastic spell. It's a spell that at 9th level as a martial character changes everything around for you. Plant Growth can too. As a controller, you could become an amazing controller with Plant Growth. Conjure Animals is going to put your damage through the roof. You definitely drop Hunter's Mark. Don't worry about that. Conjure Animals is running around smacking the enemy. Conjure Animals' big advantage is that it's creating a sizable area of effect that's mobile, that runs around. It's not tied to you. So you can have it be running around Roomba-ing up the enemy while you deal with whatever you're going to be dealing with. So if you're a ranged character, you could be, attacking into whatever, focusing fire on that area, but it's going to be able to cover area as well. So it could still clip the areas that you're in. Very, 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 very good spell. The Paladin only wishes that it could do something like this, but you are level 9. So this is the thing, is you've had really nice spells up until this point. Spike Growth's a big showstopper of a spell. Now you've got one that you can use in every encounter, and it's always going to show up and be very, very powerful. And like I said, the Paladin could only wish that they had a spell that good. Now at level 4, in the grand tradition of level 4 spells, there's not an honorable mention here. It doesn't mean that all the rest of the spells are bad. It just means that the drop-off between 1, 2, and 3 is so significant that I can't say it's an honorable mention. I don't think it's something you should consider taking necessarily. And because it is a level 4 spell slot and you're a 13th level character now at this point, we have to take all of those things into consideration. So at number 3, I have Locate Creature. So Locate Creature, if Locate Object was good, Locate Creature is even better. The problem is, of course, that you're 13th level now, so are there other things that could take its place, or do other characters have that ability? Probably, but if they don't, or if you end up off on your own or something like that, it's a great spell to be able to look to swap in for a preparation, or just to have it. Now, I'm not saying that at level 13 you should be blowing a spell slot on it per se, but circumstances are circumstances, and it can solve a lot of problems for you. So Locate Creature, good spell. At number 2, I have Grasping Vine. Now, Grasping Vine is a control spell that, because of the way it's worded, you could be having, if the terrain is all in your favor when you cast Grasping Vine, you could have a situation where it's elevated, and so it's snaring and grabbing people and pulling them up in the air. It could then drop them, or whatever, but you could have them up in the air. And so for that reason, it's a really, really interesting spell to be able to take. So I love the concept of Grasping Vine. I'm not saying I would necessarily use it, because the number 1 is going to be there's really not any reason to not use it. And then number 1 is Conjure Woodland Beings. So Conjure Woodland Beings, if you were to compare, it's very comparable to Conjure Animals. It does more. Conjure Woodland Beings will do more damage. It's centered on you. It's an emanation, and you get a bonus action to be able to disengage from the enemy. So that's a nice feature to have. And then there's all kinds of shenanigans that you can get into with the way emanation spells work when they are doing damage when they enter a space. So there's all kinds of stuff you can do with that. But it does require that you be right up into the enemy, whereas Conjure Animals is going to allow you to do it from range. So it just depends on which way you want to go. You're a level 13 character, though, at this point. Now, the case I make for Conjure Animals versus Conjure Woodland Beings is just that, is that having the option to have this at range is incredibly valuable to me. But you are a full martial character. You could have a very high armor class, that type of thing. So your ability to get into the enemy and deal with them is significant. And like I said, there are the shenanigans that you can pull off. Some of them I don't care for at all. But some of them are okay. But the idea that, you're going to have a party member grapple you and then throw you so that, again, it's clipping somebody else on there, I don't care for those kind of things at all. It's like yawn. It's just, it breaks the very idea of, would I want to see this in a movie? That's kind of my rule of thumb in my head. Is this a scene I would want to see in a movie, of the monk grappling the ranger with Conjure Woodland Beings and pushing them this way? I don't see it that way. But play how you want. It's not something I care about, but it is nevertheless a great spell, and you should definitely have it on your list at number 1. And now we get to level 5. Now we do have an honorable mention here, and that honorable mention is arguably better. Now this is going to, just bear with me here. It's going to be theoretically better in many respects than any of the top 3 spells. But it is situational. But so are the top 3 that I have here. So it's not great. It's just not great. At the honorable mention, I have Greater Restoration. You could make the argument it should be right up at number 1. I wouldn't argue with you, except that I believe that one of these 3 that are in the top 3 are going to be a spell that you really want at number 1. Greater Restoration, if you have to have it, there's nothing that can do what it does. So it's incredibly important to have that spell when it's available to. Kind of like Detect Magic is, or Dispel Magic. When you need to have it, you need to have it. So that's why it's here at the honorable mention. Okay. At this 1, 2, and 3 spot, I'm going to give them all off to you, but I'm going to give them in order. So 3, 2, 1 is how I'm going to read them out. I'm doing it this way because I really think that you're only going to ever want to consider one of these 3. This is a 5th level spell. So this is happening so late in the game that it doesn't, you're a 17th level character now. So at number 3, I have Swift Quiver. If Swift Quiver is going to be useful to you and that's what you really want to grab it, then go ahead and grab Swift Quiver. It is not, however, more powerful, in my opinion, than the next 2. And number 2 isn't as good as number 1. And at number 2 is Steel Wind Strike. And at number 1 is Conjure Volley. Steel Wind Strike can do like about 120 points of damage in a round for that one spell. And that sounds like, it's so great. But here's the problem. That's 120 points over 5 targets on average. Not as great sounding now, is it? So if you were to look at what you could do with Conjure Volley, if you had the same number of targets, 5, it would do at least as good as Steel Wind Strike, and it doesn't have any of the downside of Steel Wind Strike. So to me, it's very clearly it's Conjure Volley, but there could be scenarios and there could be specific build types that are going to really take advantage of Swift Quiver or take advantage of Steel Wind Strike in a different kind of way. And for that reason, that's why they're sitting on the list. If it were just based on simply the spell, it's Volley and then the rest. But I recognize that there are going to be build exceptions to Steel Wind Strike and to Swift Quiver. So for that reason, they're on the list. That's why they're here. But I would recommend you're 17th level. Just take the big area of effect and be done with it. So like I said, there could be build considerations. There could be many other considerations that could make Steel Wind Strike really, much better than I'm rating it right here. But from the spell itself, and same thing with Swift Quiver. So from the spell itself compared to Volley, that's why they're here. It's a very difficult thing to sort out. So if you have a notion of trying to build around those 2 spells, that's great. But I wouldn't want to be building a character around something that I'm not going to get till 17th level. So just keep that in mind. It's so theoretical, and it's probably never going to happen. So the Ranger spells, really good. I mean, if you look all through those levels, you've got great spells. I mean, at level 1, you've got Entangle, which is an amazing control ability. And level 2, you got Spike Growth. Level 3, you got Plant Growth and Conjure Animals. Conjure Woodland Beings at 4. And at 5, it's a bit of a dip down. But like I said, any of those 3 spells is really, really good. So you've got really strong options. And then you've got Good Berry and Healing. And Ranger is very, very, very underrated. And I think it kind of always has been, frankly. All right. Well, that's all I've got. If you enjoyed the video, please like, please share, please subscribe. And if you're stuck and you don't know where to go, you can always search for a secret door. Until next time, I cast bless on all of you.